Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar with BirdEye, an agency's roadmap for selling customer experience. My name is Lizzie, and I'm a Senior Account Manager for Localogy, and I will be your host for today's event. A few housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and will be circulated to all attendees for the presentation within 24 hours of the broadcast. Questions will be answered during the Q&A session at the end. You can, however, ask questions at any time during the broadcast by using the question window in your control panel. If questions are not answered during the broadcast, we will have a follow-up post-webinar. Our speaker today is Travis Bickham, Vice President of Marketing for BirdEye. Travis is currently the VP of Marketing at BirdEye. He has led go-to-market at companies ranging from hyper-growth startups to mature global businesses. He's experienced in engineering new market categories, building brands to dominate said categories, and executing operationally to build pipeline. Without further ado, I will go ahead and pass it over to Travis to get things started.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today. Very excited for the topic. Full disclosure, that bio made me sound much more interesting than I am. But fortunately for everyone tuning in today, the topic itself is quite exciting. So what we want to talk about today really is how the intersection of customer experience marketing and customer experience management are, absolutely converging and really creating pretty incredible revenue opportunities, both for the actual brand embracing that and the agencies selling this type of approach to said brands. So let's just kind of kick things off with a little bit of context. If we think about the way,
yeah. It's not up right now.
Sorry?
Your presentation is not up right now.
Oh, well, that's going to be a problem. How about that?
Yep, perfect. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it wouldn't be a virtual meeting if we didn't have IT problems. So for context, the way humans have bought and sold has evolved over time, even if the emotional principles guiding it have largely stayed the same, right? We started off with one-to-one type transactions, kind of done over a handshake, really about goods you could, see and feel. Then we started moving into more of a network-based economy where it became about, getting more buyers into the top of the funnel and ultimately trickling enough down to the bottom where revenue ended up. But now we all walk around connected all day and all night. We have a computer in our pocket. The majority of the world is buying based on research they're doing in moment or slightly before. We hear 80-90% of the buyer journey happens before you ever look at a product or talk to a salesperson. True, but what's even more relevant is how that research is happening. So consumers are actually starting their research process amongst their peers. And so reputation and reviews and the ability to generate referrals are absolutely paramount to business success. And that's what we talk about as the experience economy. So every single interaction that a brand has with a consumer adds up to experience with a big E. And over the lifetime of that customer journey, that experience can either be very positive or very negative. So to put some numbers behind this, in a massive survey of companies around the United States, over 80% thought that they were delivering superior customer experience. But when they surveyed the customers of those companies, the actual number was only 8%. So that's what we talk about as the experience gap. And so if there's a massive gap in experience in an experience-driven economy, there's also an incredible opportunity for brands and agencies to be enabling that gap to close. So the way we think about this is really around this concept of a flywheel. And the reason we talk about it as a flywheel is funnels tend to narrow at the bottom. In reality, what we want to be able to do is widen the number of customers that we're talking to. So every single customer journey starts with a search, right? And we just covered that this search is often now peer-driven. So reviews-based marketing, whether that is, traditional ORM or even, something kind of more nimble is extremely important. So every single interaction that a customer is having is potentially being reported to thousands, millions, even tens of millions of people depending on the virality of that response. So offering people an exceptional experience at the very beginning of their journey is absolutely key. Next, we want to think about how we're being found, right? So that review is out there. We've done a good job taking care of kind of the first step, but we need to show up, right? And so thinking about things like listings, is my business showing up in the right way on Google? If people go out and they're searching for one of our brands and the information on something as simple as the opening hours is wrong, right? That can be a very bad taste at the very beginning of the customer journey, right? So we're still thinking in terms of kind of the marketing experience of bringing a customer in. And that's what we refer to as being found. So being found is the origin of the flywheel. Next, we're going on. Those reviews are coming back into play. We've been discovered. They've seen that we're an exciting business. And now they've been validated by their peers. Okay, now it's time to be chosen by this customer. And so to be chosen by a customer, one gap that we see all the time as part of the experience economy is what we call the channel gap. And so the channel gap is when your customers are trying to reach out to you on their channel of choice, but ultimately you aren't there to respond. So what if, for example, a customer, Googles, they find your business, you've done a great job on your local SEO, they've read your reviews and everything looks good. Okay, they just have one question and they're ready to come in and make a purchase. And they want to text you because, maybe they're at work or picking their kids up from school. If your business isn't texting enabled or email or voicemail or whatever the channel is, you're experiencing a channel gap, and that can actually prevent you from being chosen, right? And you put all this work into being found. Now let's make sure that we land the plane. At the culmination of this second phase of the customer experience flywheel is when the sale happens. So once the sale happens, our job isn't done. And this is a huge breakdown we see in the experience economy, is people might do a really good job on customer experience marketing, but then when they get to the management side, things fall apart, right? And, a huge culprit here is the concept of a quarterly NPS survey or something that is very static, right? So what we want to be doing is actually talking to our customers consistently throughout the entire lifetime of this journey. So surveys have to be real time, right? Someone just had an interaction. Let's ask them for their feedback right then and there. It might be good and it might be bad, but we want to know because then we can go ahead and start to try to solve that problem. And a lot of companies like, for example, Zendesk, right, are making very big businesses on ticketing, but that's really only part of the problem, right? Because you've got to bring together customer experience marketing on one side and customer experience management on the other. And so by putting both of these teams together on one flywheel, you're now going to start to create the insights, right? And so these insights you're getting aren't static like an NPS survey. They actually incorporate every single interaction a customer is having throughout not just this purchase, but all their purchases, right? And because we have that data, we can create happy customers. And happy customers are going to mean more revenue. And one way we do that to complete the flywheel is referrals, right? If we have great customers having great experiences, let's get them to talk about it to their friends and family. And so with that, you've now gone from a funnel-based approach to a flywheel-based approach, where because you did such a good job, those customers are not only coming back, they're telling their friends. And so this flywheel is going to spin faster and faster and get wider and wider. And this really is what we're seeing in our customer base, with our agency partners, with every brand we talk to, the future of this business. And so we don't even talk in terms of just plain customer experience anymore. We actually talk in terms of CX squared. And that's because by bringing together the marketing and the management side of the business, we're able to get a 1 + 1 = 3 effect. And that's going to be something that we dive into a little bit today. So one way to kind of wrap your head around this customer experience squared model is to think about the different levels of maturity in a business, right? Maybe this is something you've never thought about before, something as an agency you've never sold to a brand before, and you're kind of wondering how to even get people started, right? And that's why the maturity model can be really helpful. And, we've gone ahead and based this like a pyramid because we do typically see, more brands sitting at the bottom, whereas, the really excellent market winners are at the point of this. So the first layer here is what we talk about as a foundational level of CX squared maturity. And on the marketing side, this has a lot to do with just being found, right? We see listings here, making sure all the data is accurate, that you're showing up in the right Google searches, your information is up to date, and people are saying overall the right things about you, right? So data integrity, some solicitation of feedback, and on the ops side, largely the same, right? If your data is a mess or you're doing this manually or on an ad hoc basis, that's what you need to address first. Because to get out of the foundational level to the emerging level of CX squared, you need to start to look at some automation and also some additional channels. So emerging CX squared business are actually treating, this type of approach as even better than traditional organic marketing, because it does truly encompass your entire marketing and also success flywheel, right? So they're viewing this as a source of revenue, not just a source of, feedback or getting the data right. And one thing, we've seen with some of our customers, one example coming from, the restaurant industry where they're managing 5 brands across 40 plus locations, is they've found that this type of approach generates more leads for them than traditional SEO ever did. And that's because they're not just relying on, being found in a passive way, they're actually starting to bring in interactions. And so they're closing that channel gap, and they're being very responsive to whatever they hear. So surveys become very important here. And, not just getting back to someone who wrote a positive or a negative review, but actively soliciting their feedback and making that a part of your organization through and through, right? We talk a lot about this as kind of the pulse of now. And then the last phase that, we all aspire to, and, as agencies, we all want our customers to aspire to, is being optimal in terms of your CX squared approach, right? And so this is where automation becomes very important. AI starts to enter the picture, and you're starting to, generate flywheel-based revenue, not just funnel-based revenue. And one thing that a lot of companies miss is just getting the right tools in place often is the starting point for this, but it's also enabling your people with an approach that brings together the operations side of the house and the marketing side of the house. So we like to talk a lot about getting all of your people, all of your processes, and all of your data on one platform under one strategy. You've seen this even in the enterprise, where CMO is fast becoming a title that not a lot of people have. And instead, those same people are becoming CXOs, Chief Experience Officers. And that's because there's this realization that the customer journey does not stop with the sell. It, continues and is amplified by everything that happens afterwards. So at BirdEye, one thing we focus on a lot is providing a unified visual for all of this to be seen. And so if you're, selling BirdEye to a brand or considering that, that is a key point where your operations people can be responsive to a complaint. At the same time, your marketing people are taking advantage of that successful resolution and soliciting a referral or gleaning insights on, how we can actually better market our products and services. So by unifying both sides of this, you're able to reach the optimal level of CX squared. And just so everyone knows, this is actually like a very, very new concept. The technology to be able to do this is extremely recent. And, a lot of the very large customer experience companies that have provided solutions in the past 5-10 years really are only focused on one side of this. So the ability to bring these two together is just an incredible competitive advantage. So, once again, why does this even matter? Like, why can't you just tie together a lot of point solutions, right? And it's a forest for the trees issue. So, a better metaphor actually might be whack-a-mole. If, we're thinking in terms of a channel gap, and so we go out and we get, web chat and the ability to message. Okay, that's great. Our customers are now able to reach out to us, but now we're just relying on them to be proactive. We haven't solved the MTS gap, right? Because there's no survey component to this. Okay, so now we add in surveys as well, but now we're just talking to the same people over and over again. How are we getting new leads, right? And so you need to bring in referrals, you need to bring in listings. And so by putting everything we've seen on the flywheel all in one place, you're able to get that 1 + 1 = 3 effect. And that's why a platform approach is so powerful for agencies to bring to their brands, whether it's now in a time of digital transformation or just at any time, because this is the way the experience economy works now. It's going to beat point solutions 10 out of 10 times. And, frankly, what a lot of people miss is it's also more cost effective, right? If you need 8-point solutions to complete the flywheel, that's going to cost a lot more money than a single platform approach, right? So all of your data flowing between everything, all of your people able to operate off one platform, and the cost basis being lower, making this an easier, more effective sell. Okay, but one thing we hear sometimes, whether from our agency partners or on the direct side of our business, is, hey, my client's actually not looking for this new concept, customer experience squared. They just want more reviews, right? And that can definitely be a challenge that you have to overcome in any discussion about CX squared. And we've gone through some of it already today. And the answer is, you might be calling it something else. You might not, have the people staff for this yet, but that doesn't mean these aren't critical business issues, because this isn't about, creating a new category in customer experience. It's about accelerating revenue for a business. And so the way I would usually approach this is, hey, okay, maybe you aren't necessarily thinking about this right now, but are you thinking about how you're going to grow in 2021? Are you thinking about where you need to be hiring more staff in 2021? Are you thinking about your technology investment plan? And are you thinking about how you're going to go back to, your investors, whether you're public or private, and, talk to them about how you're embracing digital to compete and not lose share in your market? And the answer to that is always overwhelmingly, yes, those are my critical business issues in the C-suite. Okay, great, because that means you're thinking about CX squared, right? And the way to solve the revenue acceleration formula is to bring together customer experience marketing and customer experience management and put all of that under one roof. All right, so here's kind of an example to think about, right? So if you look at this graphic here, we've got our prospect coming in. Looks like a hot buyer to me if I've ever seen one. And, they're served an NPS survey. I don't know what point in the journey that is, right? It could be at the search. It could even be, after the sold, right? If, they're a first-time buyer, not a repeat. They go ahead and they give us a 7. We actually don't have any more data after that with traditional survey-based approaches, right? If we're not bringing in all of those marketing touch points. And so that customer continues along their journey. We as an organization are still thinking they're a 7, and they have a complaint, right? Could be a week later, it could be 6 months later. Maybe they bought something from us and it stopped working. So they complain about that issue. But with traditional survey data, we don't change our view of them in terms of our data, right? So they've now complained about the issue. Then something goes wrong, and maybe we're not a CX squared enabled organization, and so we don't resolve that because our ticketing isn't integrated. Okay, no, that's not great. A couple more weeks go by. Oh, hey, we actually did see that, and now we're going to take care of it. So customer success has addressed this issue, and then we go ahead, and it's been a whole quarter. They get another NPS survey, and they're an 8 because their issue just got resolved. With NPS, we're thinking, hey, this is fantastic. This customer went from a 7 to an 8. We must be doing a really good job. But you completely miss the actual customer journey that CX squared can teach you about, right? Because with CX squared, you're measuring the interactions across every single channel and all of those points on the customer experience flywheel. So you're able to see this customer complained, right? That's got to drop your score from a 7 to a 4. And then we haven't responded, right? So there's a time lag. That's going to drop them to the 1. And with traditional NPS, we never see that. With CX squared, and it's kind of some of the data that BirdEye powers, what if this person ended their journey right there? We would never know why they walked away with NPS. But with CX squared and the experience score, we're able to understand exactly what they're upset about. We're able to resolve it. And then because we have a flywheel approach, after we resolve it, we can turn that detractor into someone who wants to promote us and actually ask them to refer us somewhere, right? And so we have, because of our approach to data and all of our touch points, now been able to take someone we could have completely lost and instead turn them into an additional source of revenue, right? This is the way business is being done now. And by selling this mentality as an agency, to the brand you work with, you're not only able to be a strategic, thought advisor to your clients, you're actually also able to position an entire technology platform to them that is going to change the nature of their business and bring together everything they're already doing in a fragmented way and make that easier and more seamless, right? So, very easy lift internally. So some of the takeaways here from CX Squared, right? So we've talked a lot about getting all of your people, all of your processes, all of your data all in one platform. That's a starting point, but that doesn't mean that this has to be massive digital transformation immediately and right away. A lot of clients that we see start with considering the people side of it, right? Do I need to rethink how my operations and how my marketing teams work together? That can be a very fast win, right? And that typically leads to, a good discussion for us as, an agency who's selling this, or, even a brand buying directly. And that's, well, if this is a strategic priority for us, how are we going to fund this, right? And so that brings in the tools conversation. So you're now in a position where you've got the right people, the right tools, and then with the maturity model that we showed, and also something, we're very happy to share with everyone afterwards, you're able to provide a roadmap to success with this. So Customer Experience Squared, definitely, the future of doing business. A great example of this is Globe Life. They're an insurance business, over 400 locations. They have the naming rights to the Texas Rangers Stadium. They also work for the Dallas Cowboys. So a very enterprise thinking business, but also with an extremely local presence. So in a way applicable to almost all use cases. And what they've done is they've taken CX Squared and they've actually made it a discipline. So there's a team, not necessarily massive, a few people within the organization that sits across customer experience marketing and also success. And so every single morning they walk in, they get a daily digest of, what are the reviews that have come in overnight? What do we need to triage? What do we need to react to, right? And so they're taking care of the brand management side of the house. But at the same time, they're also making sure they're being proactive, right? So they're covering their organic search via listings. They're doing some direct response marketing via mailers, also kind of general out of home with something like the stadium. And so it's an elite level marketing organization that's able to run lean because they put in a platform that can cover all of this for the entire business. And then what they do is they work directly with those 400 locations and they give them the feedback they're getting from the reviews. They pass along the interactions they're having across all of their channels, email, text, call, and they're enabling every single location to get better at providing the service that they were already doing, right? And then when customers escalate issues via surveys, that's handled in real time. And that's also passed back to the marketing organization so they can get better at how they're presenting Globe Life to every single one of their customers. And then at the end of it, they're getting a ton of referrals and they're learning a ton about their business, to the point where their C-suite has insisted on, thinking of Globe Life as a customer obsessed culture. So they've parlayed this into a completely new way of doing business. And the financial results that they're seeing are just profound. So the connection from flywheel to revenue is extremely direct. And I think one thing that's really inspiring about their story is they only started thinking this way just a couple of short years ago. And insurance is, as we all know, a traditional business with a lot of regulations. And so if they can, get this spun up within 2-3 years, there's no telling what businesses in other industries or, even smaller companies are able to do. So for me, being in marketing for a very long time, both globally and in the United States, this is one of the most exciting ideas I've seen in forever about how marketers and also operators can come together to completely change the customer journey and ultimately make it something that is directly linked to the KPIs that we care most about, right? No more fluff, no more tools that haven't been justified or haven't returned on their spend. And the more you use it, actually, the more you get out of it. So to me, that's potentially one of the most exciting things here. But I want to make sure that I also invite everyone to submit questions on this topic. I know this was really a general overview and, also covering how to sell this new type of idea into brands as an agency. But please go ahead and continue to submit questions. And we're going to pause right there and give everyone a sec to send them on in.
Perfect. It looks like we actually have a few in already, so I'll go ahead and begin. The first one we have, someone wants to know, what is BirdEye?
Great question. So BirdEye provides customer experience solutions both for the marketing side of the house and the success side of the house. So what we do is we enable businesses to be found online, through listings and reviews and pages, to be chosen by their customers through closing that channel gap with, email, text, voice to text, and then also to be the best business they can and win their market by soliciting feedback, being able to respond to that feedback. So you can think of it as we basically allow you to create very happy customers so those customers can help you create revenue.
Okay, great. The next one we have is, why does customer experience matter?
Well, customer experience matters, going back to that experience gap. If 80% of businesses think that they're doing an exceptional job of making their customers happy, and only 8% of customers feel the same way, those customers are going to find a different company to work with, right? Whether they're buying a product or a service, because at the end of the day, companies like Amazon have created this paradigm and this expectation that issues will be resolved very quickly and very completely. And so it doesn't matter if you're running a single coffee shop or if you're running Walmart. Ultimately, the way customers want to be treated is standard throughout all of that. And I'll just give a quick example. My wife and I were doing our mortgage not too long ago, and I was just getting so frustrated with how long things took. I got asked for the same papers 10 times, right? And I brought this up to someone who hadn't done their mortgage in quite some time, and they said, "Well, that's just the way that goes, right? That has to be your expectation." And I thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I guess I knew that, but why am I so annoyed?" Oh, it's because when I order something from Amazon, if it shows up 6 hours late, I complain and they send me a gift card, right? And so that's where the bar is on customer expectations across all industries. And so if we don't deliver on that, we're going to lose market share to people who are.
Yep, that's so true. My husband and I just went through the same thing with the mortgage side of things, so I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
All right. We have, what tools help, or do you think help businesses offer great customer experience?
You say, how do businesses offer great customer experience?
What tools help businesses offer great customer experience?
What tools?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question, right? So I think before you dive into the specifics of, what individual tools are most important, it's thinking about how you use the tools, right? Because the last thing you want to do is bring fragmentation into your company with buying 3 or 4 different things used by 3 or 4 different teams, and then being confused why the results aren't adding up or the metrics look different in everyone. So the first thing I would say is, think about what problems you're trying to solve. And I'm guessing those problems are business level, revenue, customer satisfaction, things like that. And so you probably want to look at something that's a platform and is able to solve those issues simultaneously and give you that 1 + 1 = 3 effect. And so, I'm clearly biased here, but I think companies like BirdEye do a great job of solving that gap. Beyond BirdEye, I would say look at any tools that enable you to talk to your customers across multiple channels, solicit feedback from those customers in real time, not just in a fragmented way. And also look at tools that allow you to automate a lot of these processes and glean insights in a way that isn't going to require you to hire a team of 10 analysts to do it.
Okay, great. The next one we have is, some businesses just don't see the value in something like customer experience. Why do you think this happens?
I think it's because it's been presented in a way that doesn't relate to their business pain. If you think about customer experience as additive, then it's pretty easy to say we don't have the budget or we don't have the bandwidth to take this on right now because we're just trying to take care of our core business, right? But the reality is customer experience isn't additive. Customer experience actually encompasses the entire business. And so all the efforts that you're making to grow sales, all of the efforts you're making to grow your brand and market, all of the vendors that you're paying, all of those relationships and efforts suffer if customer experience is bad. And so if you can solve customer experience and you can go from, let's say, foundational to emerging or to even optimal in a CX² maturity model, you're going to get so much more return on all the other stuff that you're working on already. So this is one of the first things I would solve for, because it's going to make everything you do afterwards that much more powerful.
Okay, great. The next one we have is, how can businesses sell the value of customer experience?
Well, I think it's starting from what I just touched on, and selling the value of customer experience, to me, always goes back to, how has the world changed, right? Why should you care now? Your business has done great up to this point. And it's changed because of the expectations of consumers themselves. And so if consumer expectations have changed, and I present you with that fact, that means you have a choice. And your choice is you can continue doing what you're doing. And the most likely outcome of that is eventually irrelevancy, or at least loss of market share. Or you can make a shift. And if you're going to make a shift, the most logical and also the easiest shift to make is to embrace customer experience as a mentality. And then, have your people start to think in a customer-centric way, organize your business in a way that allows those people to communicate, see the same data, work in the same process, and then put a tool to automate and scale that. And so if you're thinking, hey, customer experience is a tough sell, you're not selling a tool, you're selling more money and a better reputation. And that's something that every single business wants. So I would always go back to mapping their pain to that solution.
Okay, great. We'll do one more. If there's one thing you want the audience to take away about customer experience, what should it be?
Well, it should be that it's a team sport, right? We are not getting judged by the judges on a scale from 1 to 10 here. We are out in the trenches, kicking the ball around, and all of us are trying to put it in the same other goal. And so we absolutely need to bring together marketing and operations and have this be one team driving towards one customer journey, because customers don't think in terms of, I just talked to marketing, I just talked to support, I just talked to whoever. They think in terms of, I just talked to that business. And so if customers view us that way, we need to operate that way internally. And that's what makes CX Squared so powerful versus legacy approaches or legacy systems.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Travis. Great questions and discussion. And again, if your question wasn't answered during this Q&A, we'll have someone follow up within the next few days. And I just also want to thank BirdEye too for putting together the webinar for us. Just a few more.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I know. I enjoyed all of the content. So thank you again for putting this together for us. Just a few more items from Localogy before we end today's webinar. You will be able to view today's broadcast along with previous webinars on our website. Just navigate to Research and Resources and drop down to Webinars. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please be sure to visit localogy.com and subscribe for updates to be the first to know about future webinars. I hope everyone has a great day and a good holiday season.